Good afternoon and happy Thursday to everyone. My name is Jasmine Courtney Bird, and I am a journalist, and I am your tonight's moderator for Black Women in Media. And tonight we are celebrating 5 years of excellence in with Black Women in Media from 2015 to 2020. It's been an outstanding organization. So we are celebrating with a conference and award. Tonight we have with us an author, an amazing woman, Miss Sonia Alleyne. So Miss Sonia, how are you this evening?
Good. Sonia Alleyne. But it's
Alleyne.
okay. I've had so many different pronunciations of that name over the years, so it is okay. But yes, thank you for having me, Jasmine, and congratulations on this 5th year anniversary.
Absolutely. So we're gonna dive right in. And we're just going to talk about your career in media. And we're also going to talk about the wonderful thing that is going on right now with Black women in media, pivoting. So I first want to ask you, how was your 2020?
You know, interesting is an understatement, but it has been productive. I think that's fair. I've had my fair of personal sadness, personal struggles, collective struggles and sadness. But one of the things I talk about, in my book or one of my favorite quotes is from Wayne Dyer: when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so 2020 for me has been a year of transformative change for me. And so it's been a time where I've been able to stay quiet. I've been able to work on myself. I feel like I'm in the best health I've ever been. It's been a time to reflect and connect with family and friends, to really look at myself and see how I want to be able to move forward, to look at the things that have worked and the things that haven't worked. And so it has been a really productive time. So again, there's been a lot of, there's been some chaos and sadness and disappointment and all of those things that all of us have had to deal with. But personally, I feel that this time has strengthened me, and I feel grateful for the challenge. I feel grateful for the challenge.
That's a great word.
Yeah.
That's a great word. Grateful for the things that are going on.
Yeah.
So one of my questions to you is about your journey through media. You have interviewed some of the most prominent figures, Oprah Winfrey. So
Yeah.
tell us about your journey through media and how you got started.
Oh, wow. So from the time I was a kid, I always wanted to be Barbara Walters, actually. So when I was growing up in media, there were no real Black figures, Black women who were doing it at that level. And so, I just had this interest that here was this woman who was talking to people all over the world in all different industries and getting to hear their stories. And so I think I'm a natural storyteller, and stories always interest me. And so every place that I've worked, I've had that opportunity to tell different types of stories and diverse stories. And so I'm very grateful for that. I've worked primarily in Black media. I started out at a little company called CLASS, which stood for Caribbean Latin African American Sights and Sounds. I cut my teeth there, and then joined a publication called Black Elegance. At the time, it was another small publication, and I became editor-in-chief there and the founding editor of a magazine called Belle, which was for plus-size women, and then joined Black Enterprise. And was there for 14 years, worked as editorial director, and became the founding editorial director for the Women of Power Summit, which is still a pride and joy of mine, and is still going strong even since I've left the organization. And then I went to work for the city. I went to work in government as their press secretary, and found that I did not like that. I did not like government work or public service work. But and so now I'm here out here on my own, and I'm the author of I Kick Ass at Work, and I've also started a company with a good friend of mine called Storytellers, where we help professionals and businesses tell strong business stories. So that theme is consistent throughout my career: the love of stories and how powerful they are, not in terms of just developing platforms, but inspiring people as well.
Awesome. Now, you come from Caribbean descent. So
I'm
how
sorry.
you come from Caribbean descent?
Yes, I do.
So how important is it for you not only to be a woman of color, but a woman of the Caribbean to be in your shoes? What is that like as a journalist, who has multiple ethnicities all in one?
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity to tell stories from so many different points of view. And I love, anybody who's from the Caribbean know that, everybody's like really proud of their individual country, and they carry that flag, really strongly. And so I feel fortunate that I have roots around the Caribbean. My father was born in Cuba, but of Jamaican parentage. My mom is from Barbados. My husband was from Trinidad. And so I love the Caribbean. I love the diaspora, and I love the rhythm and the stories and the sounds and the foods. And I love it all. And so I consider myself a daughter of the diaspora, a daughter of the Caribbean. And yeah, and I love all that comes with it, and it absolutely has been very important in helping me see, and I think this is why diversity is important in media, because it allows you to see different perspectives and understand different types of stories, and bring context to things, and show up in different ways that people might not expect or might not consider. Yeah. And so that's also been really important in my journey. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this has been a very, very interesting year. Mm-hmm. And the theme of Black women in media for this particular conference is pivoting. How were you able to pivot your career in media during the pandemic?
Well, there are a lot of ways to pivot, and if I may plug the book in this question, it's why I wrote the book. I Kick Ass at Work. So it came into being way before the pandemic. But what I've realized that, so it is a journal. It is the first journal of its kind. It allows women to journal and examine how they show up in the workplace. And I firmly believe that before you can pivot, you really have to take an assessment of who you are, where you are, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and how that serves. And so the only way you can pivot is if you can look at what you've done and make decisions about, how successful is this? What do I need to take with me on the next part of this journey? And what do I absolutely need to drop off, leave behind, bury, so that I can move forward a little lighter? And so what's really important for people in 2020 as they pivot is before you can do anything, you just have to take inventory. And so what this journal allows women to do is to journal about, number one, as you're, how you're showing up in the workplace, and to review that and look at it. But it also allows you to document your successes as they happen. Because we tend to, particularly as women, we tend to move really fast and quickly through our days, through our careers. Like we're just really hitting one deadline after the next. And we very rarely get to sit back and go like, wow, look at what I do. And how this journal came to be is I was actually sitting at my desk in my last job. And so, when I interview people, whether it's an internship or I'm bringing someone as a team member on, I like to ask people, or I like to suggest to people, like, what is the story you want to tell about your professional journey when you leave here? So as you're entering the job, you should think about, like, what is the legacy that I want to leave in this job? And so I was sitting in this position, kind of beating myself up, saying, you know what, I don't know if what story am I going to tell? Do I feel good about the story? And so I took a minute to actually write down all of the things that I had done in my current position. And 2 pages later, I said to myself, I kick ass at work.
Come on.
And it's in that moment that I realized that, you know what, we spend so much time just meeting deadlines and solving problems and putting out fires that, you know, and hoping that we serve our organizations in a particular way. We don't take enough time to look at the contributions we actually do give to the organizations where we work. And if you don't know, if you don't really have an understanding of how you're performing and what you're doing, then you can't really sell yourself effectively for the next potential opportunity. And so again, for people who are thinking, you know what, this environment is causing me to pivot, first of all, getting uncomfortable is a really good thing. And then sitting down and looking at what you have, because you have a history, you have a skill set, and to really look at that and honor it. Like, take the time to do those things before worrying about whether or not I'm not going to be relevant, or can I be relevant. Like, we tend to worry about the future way before we even start to recognize that we have all the tools that we need. We have everything that we need. And usually all we have to do is just build on that. And that's what's important for people to understand.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. First of all, the title of the book is amazing.
Thank you.
And how you came out about it was absolutely amazing as well. Now, though you've been in media for a very long time, did you ever foresee yourself writing a book? Was this something that you always knew that you wanted to do?
Yeah, I did. The thought of it overwhelmed me, though, because it is, you know, it's easy to, well, I shouldn't even say that. It's not really easy to write an article. And the hardest thing for me to do is to get started. Like, usually once I can start, then I can flow.
Right.
And then, you know, and then it comes. And so this is the second one. I had co-authored a book, Unwritten Rules for, Good is Not Enough, the Unwritten Rules for Minority Professionals. And so this is my first effort doing it on my own. But yes, it is something that I wanted to do. I didn't know if I had the content for it. And you know, the creative process is a beautiful one, because what it does is when you allow the creativity to come through you and you don't block it, then spirit kind of directs you and tells you where you're supposed to go. And so that's just what happened with this book. Like, you know, I knew that I had always wanted to do some sort of second career or different kind of content. I had no idea what it would be like until I had that writing exercise in my office. And so, you know, I'm a firm believer spiritually too, that like everything that happens for a reason. So even though I was sitting in that space feeling really bad and beating myself up, experiencing that moment allowed me to create this product and this project. And so, yeah, and even the whole story about like how this book, you know, came to be, and the support that I've had with Hunter Publishing behind it. Like I wouldn't have guessed any of it, but when you allow, when you listen and you follow the direction that spirit and the universe is giving you, you're never misguided. And so, you know, I've interviewed so many people over these 20 plus years. And, you know, the one set of advice that I've gotten is that, you know, I've never interviewed someone who said, you know, I listened to my spirit, I listened to my intuition, I listened to my gut, and boy, was I wrong. Like, no one's ever said that. And so it is, in times like these, again, when you're talking about pivot, in times like these, you're not going to get your direction. It's not the news. It's not your girlfriends. It's not your support groups. It's not, and all of those things are important, right? But in times like these, when we're really in crisis, I really believe that it's the universe, it's God, it's spirit. Like, this is your opportunity now to go inward and listen to the direction of your spirit and your soul, because that's what's going to help all of us be able to move forward, because that truly allows us to be more authentic. And I truly believe too, the things that come through us are not just for you. So whereas this book is a great professional accomplishment for me, and I hope to make lots of money from this, Hunter Publishing hopes to make lots of money for this, the goal of this book, right, or the act of this book has nothing to do with any of that. It's here to help or guide or support someone or some people who really need that support. And so that's what's really important about this pivoting, because it's about taking, it's less about what's going on the outside and really looking on what's going on the inside, and using all of that information, using all of the tools, all of the support. We have everything that we need. And unfortunately, when things are going really well and we can, and we're able to be wasteful and we're not thinking about tomorrow, and we're not thinking about, how good things actually are. It's these moments, right, that allow us to say, to just dial back a bit and focus on gratefulness and focus on creativity and focus on how we can be of service to those who need it.
Okay. Now, I want to talk about one of the things that you said regarding the creative process, and how when you first start, like starting is the hardest part, right? So what advice would you give women who are interested in starting the process, but they're having a really slow start?
So this is going to sound, some people will get this. I was really struggling. So I had written the book, right? I had written the book. And so what's interesting about the writing process is, and writers definitely understand this, when you write something, it's good. Like you feel like it's done, it's finished, it's perfect. And then an editor looks at it. And I've been on both sides. I've been an editor. And then an editor goes, yeah, you need more of this. And so I remember when I first handed this over to the editor, and they were just like, I was just like, the book is finished. And they were like, no, it's not finished. We need more of this and we need more of that. And I was stuck. I was really, really, really stuck. And I sat down and talked to my ancestors. And I was like, I am stuck. I have a deadline. The deadline is next week. And I need, I think it was 3 weeks out. And I sat and I talked to my ancestors, and I was just like, I need help. And the help came so swiftly and so profoundly and so intensely. I was literally blown away, and I was able to finish the book in roughly like 10 days and then go back and edit. So I went from being stuck to just really having this, just having information literally just being poured into me. And so for people who are stuck, I would suggest that they ask for help in the places that the places that their soul connects to. And so for some people, it's not the ancestors, it may be God, it may be the universe, it may be whatever. But that's what I would recommend for people who feel stuck, or spend time in nature. The creative process does not happen when you are stuck in routine.
Okay.
When you are doing the same thing every day. And when you think about how we operate, most of us, right? We get up the same time. And when we were going out to offices, we get up at the same time. We get our breakfast from the same place, the same seat in the subway. We go to we walk the same path every day. Yes. And so when you are in routine, what happens is you're never in the present moment. So because you don't have to think about where you are, your thoughts are on like what I didn't do yesterday, what I got to do tomorrow, what the kids need, what my husband needs, that's where your thoughts are, right? And so to be able to be creative, you have to kind of step out of your comfort zone and out of your routine so that you can pay attention. So if you took a different route to work, you'd have to pay attention because you'd have to know where you were going. Yeah. And so it's when you step out of your routine is that you get to stay in the present moment. And when you are in the present moment, it's the power of now. There've been all these books written about like the power of now and the importance of the presence. It's a real thing. And so as soon as you step out of your comfort zone and you are able to focus, you notice like there's a tree here, or I can hear the birds, or there's a different type of crosswork here, or I'm sitting on a different part of the train and these are new faces. Like you start to begin, that's how the creative process begins, because now you're noticing, you're being aware, right? Yeah. Awareness is the importance to be able to make any kind of change in your life. And so what happens to many of us, I mean, just use church for an example. Have you ever sat in so everybody has their seat in the pew that they sit in every Sunday. Try to sit in somebody else's seat. They walk in, they don't even know where to go. There'll be all these open seats. They don't even know where to go because this is my seat.
Yeah.
And these, there's another book that's in me that I want to talk about, like, when you think about Starbucks was created when Howard Schultz went over to Italy for the first time and sat and had coffee in a cafe outdoors for the very first time. It made him start thinking. Hamilton was written when Lin-Manuel was on vacation. Tom Shoes was created when he took a sabbatical and went to Venezuela. Like, he had this idea of creating this company. And so what happens for particularly for Black and brown people, because we are always hustling, right? When we talk about it, like, we're always hustling, we're always grinding. We don't get a chance to step away because we're hustling and grinding. And so you may not be able to take that trip to Venezuela, or you may not be able to go to Italy and have coffee in a cafe, but you can, go to Prospect Park and sit under a tree. You can go to Central Park. You can do some things differently, and so that you can see the world differently. Like, that's all. You're always grinding, right? And I like to say, and I know it's a marketing thing for folks, and that's fine, but nothing really looks good after you ground it. Like, it's not a good grind, the hustle. You really want to be inspired, right? You really want to be inspired, because that's when your best work. And I get the importance, or I get the narrative around grinding and hustling. It's because that's what we've always been taught as Black and brown people. Like, we've got to work twice as hard. We've got to do twice as better. And that is part of what's so heavy for us, right? That's the burden of us, is that we don't feel like we can get anything unless we're grinding and hustling. And so, not to offend anybody who uses that as part of their brand, like, I totally respect that. But with that, you want to be inspired. You want to find the things that are gonna fuel your creativity. And a lot of that is being able to step away sometimes, away from the kids, stepping away from the spouse, stepping away from the job. McDonald's, and I don't know if they still do it, but they honored sabbaticals where they would allow their executives to take a year or two off, because what they recognize is, if I allow you to take 2 years off, you're going to come back more creative, more dynamic, more powerful. And so there are corporations that actually encourage people to take sabbaticals and leave. And so, I always wonder, when you see people who, have these creative dreams, but they feel like they can't do them because I'm in the hustle. I'm in this mode. You've got to find some time, even if it's just a walk in the park, or a walk by a stream, or walk by something else. Like, you've got to be able to step back out, watch a movie that you would never watch, that you'd never think about watching. Just do something different. Step out of any kind of routine. Things that, let somebody say, oh, that surprised me, because I wouldn't think that you would ever do that. Do those things. And you'll be surprised. Like, I would challenge you to do those things. You'll be surprised at what you will find, and what will come up for you, and the power that has in terms of particularly those who are interested in pivoting.
Absolutely. Now, one of the components of your book that you just mentioned was that you have journaling. So how important is journaling to you, and how important should it be for people?
Oh, journaling is really important. So I had two inspirations for this. Was what I was sitting down at work, and when I was going through and recognizing that I had done all this stuff and I hadn't really acknowledged it. But the other one was, I was a big Mad Men fan. I don't know if you remember the series, but Don Draper, who's the key character in there, came home from a really challenging day at work, and he sat down and he journaled about the day. And I thought about, like, how powerful is that if you could come home and examine just any kind of day that you had, right? So whether it was a really great day, because you're not always going to be acknowledged and rewarded for all of the things that you do at work, right? But everything you do at work is building your tool set and building your tool case for the things that you're going to do later. And so how powerful would it be is if you had any kind of striking moments, whether they were, it was a really good day, a manager who's just always writing you, a worker who you don't get along with, a job promotion that you didn't get, or a job promotion that you did get. How powerful would that be if you could write about those things and review them over time and look at your personal behavior and how and be responsible for what happens, whether it went well or it didn't go well. And so oftentimes we blame everybody else. We blame the environment, we blame the boss, we blame the organization, we can blame when things are going wrong in the office, we can blame everyone. And all the isms exist, right? Racism, sexism, like they all exist. But we know they exist. And so how do you function in that? And so the best way to be able to do that is to at least look at your behavior, like look how you are showing up in the workforce and how you are operating. And so what I like to say to my mentees, and I've definitely said it to myself, if you see that, every time you get a job, you are underpaid and undertitled, like if that has been your experience over time, right? Then it's not the jobs that you've gone for, right? There's something in you, right? There's something about your self-esteem. There's something about how you feel about yourself that allows you to settle every time for the pay that you don't think you should get or the title that you don't think you should get. And so it's really easy to blame the job. But if you're doing this, and I had to look at myself, if you're saying like, every time you get a job, you're like, I think I should have gotten paid more, or I should have, had a better title. If that keeps showing up for you, then you have to examine yourself. I like to say that being in a bad job sometimes is like being in a bad relationship. Okay. Like the courtship is like the interview, like you're all excited with the courtship in a relationship, and in the job with the interview, you're just like, oh, this is great. You see all the potential, you see all the wonderful. Yes. And then you get in this bad relationship and the lover keeps telling you like, I'm sorry, it'll get better. I won't do that again. And how many times do your bosses say, next time, don't worry, just hang in here with me, do that, right? And then you leave, right? And then you go like, why did I stay here? Like all this, you get something else or you move on to do something else. And you realize like, yeah, I didn't really need to stay here. And so if you are credentialed, and I'm guessing a lot of the women who are going to be listening to this, like they have, right? If you have a network, right? If you are skilled, you should not be sitting in a place that is draining on your soul. Like life is way too short. And if this pandemic hasn't taught us that, like then what is? Like I used to say to folks, like how many people went into the World Trade Center that day hating their jobs, like only to perish, right? Yeah. So we're not here. I think there's this conventional thing that, a job is a job and you're supposed to, no, like you're supposed to, if you worked and studied and work is supposed to be, is it going to be tough? Yes. But it should be something that you enjoy, that you get passion from, that you feel that your soul is feeling some sense of satisfaction. You should not be walking into an environment every day feeling heavy, feeling drained, feeling that you don't want to go in there. You shouldn't be dreading Monday morning. And too many of us do. And you can blame the job for that. But what I'd like people to do in these journals is to really look at what our responsibility is for our own happiness, right? Yeah. I talk about, in the beginning of the book, when I went and asked for my raise, my boss he was just like 17%, like that. We don't give 17% raises. And then I was arguing with him. I was just like, yeah, but I've done this, I've done that, I've done the other. And, his advice to me was, Sonia, your career is your responsibility. And I was angry when he first said it, but he was so correct. And so we're always looking for other people to do things for us. And we feel like we have no control in our environment. Yes, the environment is what it is. but you make a choice every time you go in. Is this, you have to understand the culture of the organization that you're working in. And so you have to be clear, like, do my values match the values of this organization? And am I just having like just a rough spot in my job? Or is this place really killing my soul?
Yeah.
And those are conversations you have to have with yourself, and you can only have them with yourself. And I hope to believe is that this journal, after you write these things down, after you look at what you're doing, and be honest, because this is a place where you can be honest. You can say, like, you know what, I screwed up, or, I wasn't as responsible, or I wasn't as engaging, or, I just didn't like this person. Like, there's no judgment in the journal, which is good, right? So this whole process is not about you beating yourself up or judging yourself. It's just holding up the mirror and looking at what you see and saying, I like that, I can change this. And that is really the goal for what this is.
That's deep. I like it. That's kind of deep. That I mean, but journals are here to, help you to grow into the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
So that's essentially, what that's for. So the book is here. And how did you feel on release day? And what are you anticipating?
So as much as I can sit here and say all that I'm saying to you and the audience is, these are all the things that I'm saying to myself as well. And so, yeah, I was really excited. There's nothing like giving birth to any creative project. It's, writers have this thing, like, I hate to write, but I love to have written, right? So the process can be grueling and painful, but to be able to say that, look, like, here it is, can make you, there's a real sense of pride. And then I think I got stuck, because now you've got to go out and you've got to perform, and you've got to show up in social media, and you've got to do all of these things. And so that's what I'm kind of pushing through right now. Like, I'm always, sometimes I suffer from, like, the imposter syndrome a little as well. Like, okay, like, I'm here now and I need to show up. But are people really gonna like what I have to say? Are they gonna, listen to what I have to say? Is it gonna make sense? And so those are my struggles that I have to push through, as now it's really for me to now show up and talk about the book and encourage people to buy it. And so I've never really been good about talking about myself. And I think that's a Caribbean thing too, right? Like, we were always taught to be, like, humble and meek and soft-spoken, and, like, you're supposed to be modest and humble, and, like, that's what a good girl is. And so it's, we're all learning to push through all of these things that we were taught and groomed, socialized, and to believe, and to get uncomfortable. And so, so that's what I'm working on now. I'm working on getting uncomfortable and showing up authentically in posts and in venues like this, to really just talk about, like, what I would have never talked about ancestors before, because I would have just been like, all my friends who are Christian are just going to be like, oh my God, that's like, she's talking like, that's so, the things that, and I know, it kind of is what it is, but this is me, right? This is me, and this is who I am. And so it's, those are the things that I'm learning with as I continue to journey and grow, and because it's all growing and learning. And like I said, there is no judgment, there is no wrong answer, right? There is no bad thing that you can do. It might be bad in that moment. I think about some things in the last job, and I was just telling a friend of mine, I think about these moments that were, like, really critical, right? Where they're on the phone and they're calling you at, like, 10 o'clock at night, and I can't even remember what we were talking about, right? Like, those things that you were, like, really crazed, and you couldn't go to sleep, and you're fighting because, you're trying to get points of views across. Like, that was then. It was, there were some lessons that I learned. I'm carrying those through into this. There's just no bad answers. There's no right way to do this. You just got to figure out your way, and be able to show up in the world, Like that's, if you can't show up, sin for me is not being able to show up the way you were expected to show up here to be a light for the people that you were supposed to be here for. So if we believe that we're all here for a reason, then it's really our goal and our purpose to find what that reason is and to show up that way. Because again, it's not for us, it's for whatever the universe deems the need that right? And so they decided that you were the one. The universe said, God said, you were the one who's going to do this. That's why he poured this thing into you. That's, people say like, I've been sitting on this idea. I have this burning desire to do. Desire is God. That God speaking to you, going, yes, you're the one. I'm giving you. Go ahead and do it. But what do? We go, I don't know if I'm the one. I don't know if I have the strength. There's somebody else doing it better than me. And so, yeah. And if you don't do it, the work has to get done. So the universe does give it to somebody else to get it done. So, and as you're thinking about pivot, what you don't want to do is to think about regret. And so just do. And like as I'm talking to myself, as I'm talking to you, it's like, because the work has to get done. We see the chaos that's happening in this planet. And so we are the ones we're waiting for. So the work has to get done, and the work will get done. You just have to decide, are you going to be the one doing it? Or are you going to be sitting on the sides going, that was my idea. Oh, I don't know. It's your choice. And there's no judgment, but it is your choice.
I love it. Now, where can we purchase the book, and what are your social media handles?
Sonia, Alleyne, and I Kick Ass at Work are my social media handles. And you can get it on Amazon and hunterpublishinggroup.com. So support, it's a Black-owned business. Kevin Hunter, much love to him. This process was really crazy about even how this book came to be. And Kevin decided to stick with me, and he decided to publish it. It helped launch his publishing company. And so, yeah, I have eternal gratitude for him and his team, Nancy Flowers, who brought me to the Hunters to get this process started. And so, yeah, it's been a really interesting journey to getting there, but it's been a really good journey, a lot of lessons learned. And like I said, I have great eternal gratitude for the team that's helping me push this book and this project.
I love it. Well, Miss Alleyne, first of all, congratulations on every bit and piece of success that you have, your book, from your journalism career, your editing career. And we appreciate you, here in media. So we definitely thank you for taking the time out this evening to speak with us. And we definitely wish you so much success in the near future.
Oh, thank you, Jasmine. You have a beautiful spirit. So it's a pleasure sitting here and looking at your beautiful face, and I can feel your energy. It's incredible. So thank you. Thank you for having me on and sharing this time with me.
You're very, very welcome. And I wish you the best. And I can't wait to follow your success, because the phone is already up. So I've already been looking at the stuff. I've been looking at everything since I got it. So I'm excited for you and to watch your journey. So I'm very excited. And again, thank you so very much for being with us here, Black Women in Media Conference 2020.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. In the broadcast. All right, so we are done.
Right. Thank you, Jasmine. I mean that. You have an amazing spirit. Like I felt like I felt like you pulled stuff. It felt effortless. Yeah. Thank you so much. Like that's the spirit working, and I'm just grateful.
Oh yeah. When you say like my friends sometimes don't understand the ancestors, I grew up with that my whole life. So I thought it was normal. So listen, that gives me life. So I love doing everything, all of this. So trust me, understand and believe. No judgment over here. Because when you say I talk to my ancestors too. I talk to my grandmother.
Well, I'm gonna share something with you. So I went to a conference in 2009. We're off the air, right?
Yes.
I went to a conference because I saw somebody saying they wanted to ask a question.